Welcome to Your Gen Z Coworker, the podcast where we break down the workplace and focus on what truly matters, building well-being into your career, prioritizing life over work, and staying true to yourself. Hosted by me, Emily, a fellow Gen Zer who's been there, done that, and still figuring it out. This is your space for real talk career advice, workplace trends, and actionable insights that put you first. From ditching outdated office norms to embracing the freedom to thrive authentically, I am here to guide and inspire you. So grab your coffee or snack of choice, hit subscribe, and navigate this work-life thing with me on Your Gen Z Coworker. Welcome everyone to another episode of Your Gen Z Coworker podcast. We are back here in Blackmore Studio, the perfect event space for any event that you want to host. I am here with councillor Kate Leatherbarrow.
Hello, hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast.
I'm so happy to be here, and the space is beautiful.
It is beautiful.
Oh, yeah, and so bright.
Yeah. So I'd love to kind of like just pass it over to you to do a little intro about yourself.
Absolutely.
Who are you? Who's Kate?
Yeah, who is Kate? Yeah, so I'm Kate Leatherbarrow, and I'm a first-term city councillor, so 4 years, 3/4 of the way through. Wow. Which is wild. Municipal election next year in 2026. So my first term as serving the good people of Woodstock at City Council.
Amazing.
So yeah, I wear quite a few different hats, but this is something that I've been pursuing for some time.
Yeah.
And when I just said to you that we're 3/4 of the way through, I think, how can that be?
Yeah.
That is where we're at.
Literally,
yeah.
how can that be?
I know.
That is crazy.
I know.
What inspired you to go into politics? Because I feel like not that there's like a stigma around politicians, but I think I really think it's interesting to talk about how people get involved and like why did you get involved? Like why did you see politics as a next step for you?
Yeah, well, it's kind of funny because I didn't, quote unquote, go to post-secondary being like, I want to be a politician. Yeah. I've always been outspoken and courageous and, sticking up for the underdog, if you will.
Yeah.
But yeah, actually, my family and I moved to Woodstock from the city of Guelph in 2014. Yes. So lived here 11 years now. And back in and around 2017, there was a community issue that I did not agree with. Went to the appropriate channels to figure out, like, how do I write the mayor of Woodstock at the time, or what is city council?
Yeah.
I had the bare bones, but really I didn't know how to engage with the system or the people.
Yeah.
So I was a delegation, 5-minute time limit to speak about this matter. And ultimately I didn't see myself or my family or my values represented around that council table.
Okay.
And not so much a personal issue, just I was kind of in that space, going through the motions. It's not a very comfortable space for a lot of people. I'm always really humbled when people come to the podium and they're like, I'm really uncomfortable, I'm really nervous. And I'm like, everybody is. But yeah, so from there, it really resonated with me where I said, well, I don't see myself here. And ironically enough, given the newly elected president of the United States, his first term, I helped run the Women's March in Woodstock.
Okay.
And from there, networked with people and stumbled across a campaigning school to run for municipal politics. Yeah. And it was wild because even at that time, for all those, data buffs out there, you have to ask a woman, I think it's like 11 times to run for office before she'll even consider.
Oh my God.
So I remember kind of being tapped on the shoulder by these, local advocates or advocates across Southwestern Ontario. And I'm like, no, thank you. No, you can't be talking about me. No. But I fell in love with it. I did. Yeah. So that's how I started.
That's crazy.
I know.
11 times.
I know.
Before.
Yeah. I think that's a stat. Let's say 11, don't quote me on it. But it's a lot of times before one. And I mean, I feel like I'm always asking people. Yeah. And I still, specifically with females, get the whole like, get out of here. No way.
No way.
Because I think you use the word taboo where it's like, for lack of a better word, it's not, I mean, we're getting there.
Yes.
We're seeing more female, gender diverse, equity deserving groups serving their communities in this capacity, but it's still a little like, well, it can't be me. Yeah. I'll support you, but it can't be me.
But it can't be me.
But it can be you. I always said to people too, because I did run in 2018 and lost a seat by 59 votes. Had to carry that burden for 4 years. I was so close. Happy to share that story later in the interview, should we wish to peel that onion back. But it was really interesting, whether it was that campaign period or this campaigning period, you know, door knocking, number one, like run an effective campaign, make it positive, get involved in the community and knock on those doors, hit the pavement. But even, you know, exchanging ideas and thoughts with residents at the door, I was really good at kind of arguing that like there's so many transferable skills.
Yes.
And I would say that like I was really confident in that in the second time I ran.
Yeah.
Because first time, every time, everyone's nervous.
Yeah.
It's learning.
Yep.
We're not very patient or graceful with ourselves as women or humans.
No.
But yeah, the transferable skills was a big one.
Yeah.
Rather than someone saying like, well, how are you going to do it?
Yeah.
You run a business. You have children.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, I'm really good at time management. Yeah. You know, I am. Like, I'm always caffeinated.
Yeah.
But I've been in hospitality for, oh my goodness, 15 years now.
Yeah.
Wow. So dealing with the public and again, small business ownership as well. And then just going through the pandemic.
Yeah.
Hello. That was a whole new set of transferable skills.
Exactly.
So Emily, I should say too, happy to be here to talk about politics, but what I always do for my Counselor Corner videos, you can find me on social media, but I do always put in this kind of, you know, little tidbit that I'm never speaking on behalf of Woodstock City Council. I'm only speaking on behalf of myself, Kate Leatherbarrow, City Councillor. And I think that's really important to kind of separate the two. And just wanted to add that little. I always say I'm doing these videos on behalf of myself.
Me, myself, and I.
Exactly.
So can we talk about maybe some of like the unique challenges that you've faced like as a counselor? I mean, coming from, you know, my perspective as a Gen Z, I think politics has always been viewed as maybe more of like an older generation thing. Scenario. And I mean, you know, growing up here in Oxford County, like, you know, we've seen it, right? And when I went to the University of Guelph, so I was a little Guelph girl too for a little bit.
Guelph is so special.
It's such a special place. And I could really feel the difference there in terms of like the political climate. Compared to Oxford.
Okay.
Despite being like really so close in proximity. What are kind of maybe some of the challenges that you faced as a counselor?
So I guess I'll pick up on one point that you mentioned, is that like I do think historically for a long time, again, this position as, you know, serving your constituents, municipal councillor, mayor, things of that nature, I think has maybe been viewed or been, you know, pursued by people that are retired, right? I haven't actually gone back to the historical data of specifically Woodstock City Council, but I do feel like this term specifically, we saw a lot of change.
We did.
So we have 3 first-term councillors, and then we have 3 long-standing councillors, if you will. And then the mayor obviously served as a councillor for 2 terms, which is 8 years, and now he's the mayor. So it's certainly diverse in the sense of experience. Certainly a range of age and backgrounds and education and all that kind of stuff. But as far as like, what are some of the hurdles, I mean, or some of the challenges, I think that the community itself has changed so much in the last decade. And so we saw that on the ballot. We saw that, you know, the result of the election, but also we're seeing that in like how the votes are falling and coming to be, the motions that are coming forward, but also just, you know, in our infrastructure. And so I remember, you know, an interview maybe 2 years ago now, they were like, what's your community's biggest challenge? And I said, I think our biggest challenge is that we are transitioning to a city. And I mean, every municipality is feeling all of the mental health crises and issues and financial or lack of affordability, if you will. But I really see our community in that transition. And it's hard. And it's hard because whether it's residents or elected officials, of course, there's nostalgia or there's how things used to be. And then there's viewpoints that can say, well, let's add this in. Because say I came from the city of Guelph and I saw this really great idea or pilot program or policy. Let's, you know, look into it. So I don't think it's a bad thing, but I do think it's been challenging.
I definitely can agree with that. And, you know, coming from my perspective, you and I have had conversations, you know, before, but, you know, I think it's challenging to have those conversations to say, you know, just because things have always been done this way doesn't mean they have to continue this way.
Yeah.
And obviously, yeah, challenging, but like, I just think of how much you can grow from it. Like how much things can actually like grow and change. And I think there's absolutely value in, you know, in the origin story of the city of Woodstock and how things, you know, have gone and things have been done. But, my fiance will make fun of me for this. I'm not really a history person.
Yeah.
I think it had its time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm always like one who's like looking forward to the future.
Yeah.
But I think we can learn obviously from the past.
Yeah.
And
I think you make a great point because, so I was born 1990.
Yeah.
So I'm turning 35, but I do feel like my generation or maybe my life experience, like I have been for the better part receptive to new ideas and change.
Yeah.
And I've also been searching for it.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, maybe it's not specifically related to politics, but more so like that individuality, personality, you know, some people are receptive to it and some people are scared of it and some people take more time to warm up to it.
Yeah.
Again, I'll kind of point it back to the pandemic. I mean, I was campaigning in 2022 saying like, if there's one thing that we've all learned, that we were forced to pivot. Yeah. You know, in my business life. Yeah. And at the time I had 3 kids that were online learning. I have a lot of expressions from my gram because I absolutely idolized her. So she would say, Barbara would say, like it or lump it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we had to pivot. Yeah. And so, I think you make a good point about that. Yeah.
So as we talk about different generations and, you know, one of the things that I always do when I speak at conferences is, you know, I always ask the audience, you know, what is Gen Z? You know, what does Gen Z look like to you? Yeah. And, you know, I'm always met with people who are like, they're lazy. They don't want to work. They're always getting
Which is so unfortunate to hear. Cause I'm like, I don't think I've ever been given a specific definition from someone. Yeah. But this is why we're having this conversation.
So I'm met with that. And, you know, I'm like, lay it on me. Like, give me all of the stereotypes. Give me all the things that you think Gen Z is. Yeah. And then I always ask them to flip the script. Yeah. I said, are they lazy or do they just set better boundaries than you? You know? Wow. Yeah.
Boundaries.
You know, or asking them, I'm like, are they, you know, yes, they may be addicted to their phones. We've grown up with them literally in our pockets. Like it's very like to try and like make that transition, but use it to your advantage.
I know.
They're incredible at social media. They know the things to do. They can pick up a new technology like literally so much faster. You know, it can help your business. It can, you know, so I always kind of like make those points. But one of the other things too is that I think people are really quick to just like take a stereotype and stick with it. Yeah. Right. And so that's typically what I like to step away from, you know, in my business. Yeah. And I think sometimes, I guess, you know, in light of, you know, we had a recent election, you know, I think people were like, oh, Gen Z like just doesn't vote. Like they're just like not interested or like, you know, they're politically disengaged and they don't know what they should be doing. But as Gen Z, like I'm seeing a lot of us who are speaking up. Like,
yeah, I was going to say, I almost feel like from what I've seen, the exact opposite. Yeah. I mean, demonstrations, you know, across the globe, we've got like serious conflict happening. Yeah. We know that. Certainly seeing a lot of it through social media. I am active on social media. Yeah. But yeah, that participation, I would say the opposite. Yeah. I mean, we'd have to, again, like pull out the numbers, pull out the books. But I do know that specifically as it relates to demonstrations and protests and gathering, I've certainly seen a lot of it in the last year alone.
Yeah. Yeah. And I talk about this, you know, with my clients and conferences and things like that. But Gen Z is going to be the generation who will like put you in your place. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Like they're ones to speak up. They're ones to say, no, you're wrong. Right. Like we've seen Gen Z like cancel multiple celebrities and influencers because they're like, no, you don't actually back up what you're saying right now. Yeah. And I think it's really interesting and I like it because I'm like, oh, okay, you go, I'll support you.
I know.
But I guess kind of the question that I have for you is like, how do you see Gen Z shaping the future of local government? Yeah. You know, and being in the community and being leaders in that regard.
And I think just to kind of dovetail off of what you just said too, I do think that there is like the digital divide. Yes. I've only read like bits and pieces about it, but I can again, see that even around my council or people that are choosing not to use social media or find it intimidating or don't know how. Embracing new things, right? Yeah. You can always hire somebody or do a little tutorial on YouTube. You can. But I do think that like I see that. And as far as how do I see Gen Z, or like I'm happy to focus on Gen Z, but really for me, I'm still concerned of like how to get more people involved. Yes. Yeah. Because as much as I just said, I'm seeing more demonstrations specific to Woodstock. Yeah. We need more people to get involved of all ages. Yeah. And I'll give you an example. Right now we're in the throes of budget season. Ooh, yeah. This is the third budget, and this is your revenue fund budget. So this is like strictly your service levels. Yeah. And we've never had a delegation come to council as it relates to the budget process. And I'm not shaming anyone when I say that. No. But as you know me well enough, I try really hard to engage people through social media. Yes. Write your councillors, you know, come to council, appear, because you could argue that the budgets are single-handedly the most important decisions your councillors, your elected officials are making on your behalf. Yeah. So I don't have an answer of what it looks like or how to get more people involved, because I am getting other engagement. Yes. I am getting questions, concerns, comments on other matters like throughout the year. Yes. We are a citywide council, so we don't have wards. So we don't have pockets of people that we are specifically to represent. It's citywide. So that's 50,000 people. So my inbox can be like a rainbow of issues in 1 week's time. Yeah. But I do wonder that, Emily, because it's important. Yeah. Not only do I have such a dream to get more people on the ballot physically, but I also want to get more people involved in just the campaigning process. Yes. Campaigning is so fun. Yeah. Or can be so fun. Yes. And Lindsay Wilson, my right wing deputy mayor of Ingersoll, also not speaking on her behalf, but we always said to each other when we were campaigning, like campaigning is different from the role. Yes. And it is, but it's a great way to just get involved and, you know, boots on the ground to really back something that you believe in. Yeah. Whatever that is and whoever that is. Yeah. Yeah. So maybe that's my answer. Yeah. Trying to get more people involved in the campaigning process. Yes. Vote. Yes. Yes. Read about each candidate. Yeah. But actively like putting up signs, door knocking, dropping literature, doing social media if that's their jam. Yes. You know, writing, you know, answers if they're doing debate prep. I mean, or just go with them, because you should never door knock alone, right? Like just go for a walk. Yeah. One of the things that I can speak to for Gen Z is, you know, from a career perspective, they really want to have purpose, right? Yeah. Out of every generation previous to them, they are really valuing making sure that they're making a difference in the work that they're doing. And I think that probably speaks to, you know, why Gen Z is speaking out and doing protests and, you know, having these conversations, because I think that's what they really value is they want to make sure they're making a difference, because like we've grown up in a very uncertain time, right? You know, I'm of the elder Gen Z, if you will. You know, I was born in 97, but I think, you know, from doing school online to everything shifting, that's become really uncertain. And I think that's why we're valuing and wanting to make sure that we're making a difference in one way or another. Yeah. 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 Well, and I think it goes back to like the beginning of our conversation of how we view elected officials, or how we can really, like, let's say this is an example, like I went to school for agriculture. Yeah. Like how does one sift through that? Yeah. To like imagine themselves as an elected official, doing all the through the mayor to the this to the staff to the this to the point of order, point of order. But really, just, you know, the procedure and policy. I think it's a bigger conversation too, to make it more approachable, make it more accessible, but also to, make it more like everyday people. Yeah. Any age. Any spot in your life. Yeah. Yes, there is a time commitment, like anything. Yeah. But as you mentioned, purpose. Yeah. Like there's so much purpose to it. You mentioned something there about like time commitment or like any stage in your life or anything like that. And I think, you know,
starting a business, you know, when I was 24, I was my like, what are you
amazing
doing?
Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah, but like, what are you doing? Or, you know, I'm writing a book right now, and people are like, don't people normally write books when, you know, they're older and more experienced and whatever? And I'm like, some do and some don't. And so I'm the don't. Like, you know.
And who wrote the rule book? Like come on.
Whatever.
You know what I mean though? Like who wrote that? Like we need a new version. Yeah. Or maybe that's what you're working on. That's
what I'm doing.
New rule book.
Rule book. But I think it's having these conversations, right? You know, me and you sitting here and talking about it, and you know, being open on social media about it is going to be one of the biggest ways to you know, help this next generation and just help people in general realize the difference you can make when you do, you know, sit in council or campaign or anything.
And even when you mention like time commitment and where you're at in life, I really want to offer to specifically Woodstock residents, but to others that are interested, I want to offer like the most positive experience I can. Yes, it's hard work. Yes, there are sad times. But I want to offer that positive experience or truthfulness, because I also, when I said I ran because I didn't see myself at the table, I also didn't feel like the door was being held open to offer like the mentorship. You know? And I'd really like to believe that I would offer that guidance to anyone. It is challenging with political landscape and opinions. But at the same time, I don't want to be picky choosy, because ultimately like we need to be holding the door open for people and we need to be encouraging, and it can't all come down to like, hey, Emily, I really like you and I like your ideas, so I'm only going to give you the truth and the answers. Like be real, but be honest that you can leave a little crumb of inspiration to the next person. You know?
Love that.
A little crumb.
Look.
Just a little crumb, please.
What are some ways that maybe Gen Z, you know, or anyone in the community can get involved in their communities, even if they're not ready to run? Even if they're not ready to like full throttle 2026, be ready to run.
I would say volunteering. Volunteering is down across the board. I don't have a reason for that. No. I don't quite know. Again, back to my gram. She lived in Toronto, and you know, when she was like in her late 60s, she volunteered at the ROM. And then although I was born in Woodstock, I grew up in Haldeman County, so I would take the bus and the subway up to my grams, all the public transit. But I would go with her to the ROM and on those shifts that she was volunteering. So volunteering was very early on. I saw it in my life. And when we moved here, like moving cities as an adult, not going to post-secondary and making friends and finding all of your people and your corners, it was tough. So I would recommend like volunteering. You know, I volunteered on the board for Operation Sharing. That was my first board experience. You can volunteer in events, so it's not, again, something that you're board or committee. The city committees, although I lost the election in 2018, I did apply for the city committees. Didn't get one. However, those are just, I would say volunteering your time is a great opportunity. And again, there's typically a variety of people from all different backgrounds, all different ages. And some that have, for lack of a better word, volunteered or been in that position for 10 plus years. Right. So you'll really get to understand your community, I think, a lot better too.
And I think that really helps for people who are really finding themselves in positions where they're multi-passionate, right? You know, they're—
I like that word.
It's one of my favorites. Multi-passionate. Because I think so often, like, we feel like we're confined to one thing, right? Especially like if we went to school for one thing. Like I went to school for business. I'm like, I must be confined to the business world. And like, no, thank you. But you know, you can be multi-passionate. And I think volunteering is a great way to, you know, dive into those pieces, like one little bit at a time, right? At a certain event that you love every year, like, you know, volunteer your time for it.
I will plug one. Last year was my first time ever not only participating, but attending Runway of Stars with WDDS. And that was an amazing event.
That's coming up soon, isn't it?
In May. So I'm not,
That's
they asked me to be a model again, and my son's in a play. So I'm like, it was bananas last year. However, I will be attending. We got a table, but that was an amazing event. And again, it's been ongoing for quite a while.
Yes.
But just, submerged in the community, even just learning about the services that they provide.
Yes.
Not from a council perspective, just community.
Yeah.
That's always kind of the interesting question in Woodstock is like where to find out about things.
Yeah.
When to know when events are happening. I'm like, I feel like somebody should just fund a blimp flying over. I don't know, but it's really kind of this weird thing where a lot of people, it's getting them the information about all of it, wrapping it up with a big bow, and then
I think one of as most people know on the podcast, I've had a lot of jobs and a lot of experiences. I never found myself thinking, oh, I don't have a community, or I don't have someone I could talk to about something. And so I had taken a friend to an event last November or something, and we were going around and people had booths set up, and, I went up to one and they were like, oh, hey, Emily, how's it going? And then I talked to them, and then it's the next booth and everyone, and they're like, how do you know everyone? And I'm like, social media, literally, I could live under a rock, but I have such a social media presence that in a way that's open and, relatable, that people just will gravitate to you and talk to you. And I was like, that's my sense of community, because I'm able to take what's on social media out into the community. And it's I don't know, when you talk about the hierarchy of needs, that sense of belonging, I think that's really beneficial, to me,
for sure,
in the community.
And that's amazing. And again, we all personally define our own community, right? What that looks like.
Yeah.
Even just thinking of my husband, love him so much, but to some degree, his, filling his cup is probably less social than the way I need to fill my cup.
Yeah.
I'm like, girls' nights, dinners out.
Yes.
Talk everything to death.
Yeah.
Overanalyze it. Talk to him.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, what community and the way we treat ourselves and the way we process things is so deeply personal and different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a question for you.
Yes.
Whether you have experience in this or not.
Okay.
From Gen Z to millennial, do you think Gen Z is redefining the way success and leadership looks compared to previous generations?
You know what? I don't know if I'd have a knowledgeable answer on that.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to learn more.
Yeah.
I think being a millennial, I'm still struggling with dealing with the baby boomers.
Yes.
Because that's also super different.
Yes.
I'm in the middle.
Yeah.
And really, even you just earlier in the interview saying that, you grew up with social media. I'm still in that bracket of I loved my CD Walkman.
Yeah.
On the bus. I loved it so much. And I don't think I got my first cell phone until grade 11.
Okay.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, my first cell phone.
I also loved BlackBerry Messenger, BBM.
Oh,
those
yes.
Good days.
Good days.
But so I don't know how to answer it, Emily, only because I think that, I just don't think I have enough experience to have an opinion.
And I think we have time to see where it goes, right? Yeah. If we really think about Gen Z generation, I'm of the elder. So
older.
So old. So I'm 27. So if we're thinking about the beginning of the Gen Z generation, but then it goes until 2012, right? So my brother, he was born in 2010, so he's almost 15. So we've got that gap or that group to see, where things will go. And so this is why I always have these conversations, because as much as when I started my business and I started talking about, Gen Z and all of these pieces, and I was constantly met with, oh, you're too young, or, oh, you don't know enough, or you don't know right from wrong, and blah, 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 blah. And I just was like, whatever.
Yeah.
Move on. Gen Z is the generation that you're going to be hiring for the next 20 years. Right?
Well, my oldest son will be 13 this year.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
yeah.
So I should get to know Gen Z a little bit better too, so I know what's gonna happen.
But
with
it's
my kids.
You have to.
I know
you can't just shy away from that conversation. You can't just think oh, if I don't involve myself in it, or if I don't think about it, then it's not going to happen. And
But I will add, maybe this is just an experience rather than specifically related to Gen Z. But you had said something of oh, I'm too young.
Yeah,
got that a lot in my life. That a lot in my life.
Yeah.
And specifically, I went to Humber College in Toronto after high school. I have a late birthday, so I was 17, turning 18 in Toronto.
Yeah.
Wild. Didn't do well in school. Went for journalism.
Okay.
Didn't do well in school because I was partying and playing hockey for the college.
Yep.
But then I didn't want to go back to post-secondary. Yep. So I moved to Guelph because I had friends there. My brother was going to school there. Yep. Didn't want to go back to Haldeman County.
Yeah.
I remember I felt such shame when I got a hospitality job and people were like, oh, what are you taking in school? And I wasn't in school. So that was already going against the norm.
Yes. Yeah.
But then, you know, settled down, like obviously my husband and I met, fell in love, all that stuff. And then we moved here and yeah, whether it was the first time I ran for politics or not, too young. Yeah. Right. But I wonder too, if like each generation, there are some type of, you know, stigmas and stereotypes, because my mom, who has been retired for about 8 years, she is 68, Jane, sorry, 69. But she was one of the first female graduates in her veterinarian class. Also went to the University of Guelph.
Wow.
Like that wasn't that long ago.
No.
So I'm like, there's a lot of stuff still like to change and to be called out and to be double checked. And but I'm just saying, I'm sure she was told too. Oh my goodness, she would be amazing to interview. Some of her experiences in a male dominated industry. And she's experienced that more than I have. Yeah. But some counselors, not just in Woodstock, but across the province, female specific, they've served for 20 years. So like, what was that like for them getting into the game?
Getting into it. Yeah.
Like, and, you know, being part of the old boys club or being part of that mentality or whatever people, again, have that stereotype. Yeah. What was that experience like? I don't know. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. And I think, like you said, like there's definitely stereotypes and whatever thoughts and pieces that go along with each generation. But, you know, what I always say is, you know, like flip the script. Like every generation is the way that they are because of the generations previous to them, right? Sure. We were taught to do things a certain way. We were taught that, you know, I was taught if you went to university, you would be very successful. Yeah. Fun fact. Yeah. Not always true. I know. You know, that was the version of success. And I think Gen Z and even generations previous are starting to realize, you know, maybe sticking to one thing or sticking to one job is not the right way to go either. Right? Yeah. Like there are so many opportunities.
I'm a big believer of that too. Yeah. Like I would love to have a long-standing career in politics, but maybe it's not politics. Maybe it's just continuing to contribute to the community. Yes. I don't really know what that looks like, but I've also always had a dream to become a lawyer. Yeah. You know, like I'm a Libra. It's in my it's in the signs. It's in the stars. But I'm a big believer of like, you're never too old, you're never too young. Yeah. And I do think gone are the days of like, I'm going to do this until I'm 50 or 55 and retire and live out my days doing X, Y, and Z. Yes. I do think like continued education will only make you brighter and stronger. So I think that's a really important point too, just to point out that, it doesn't have to be a certain way. And
what is next for you? Like, what
is next for me? I don't know. I don't know, because again, we have an election next year. So I have a lot of people asking me, are you going to run again? Are you going to run? Because I'm a city councillor. We have a 2-tier government system here. Yeah. So I am a lower tier. Yeah. And there is the upper tier, also known as the regional table. So a lot of people have asked, will I be running for the city county position? And I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I've enjoyed so much of the experience, but I'm also not the gal that like plans 5 years ahead. Yeah. I've never been like that. I just finished telling you that like I can go back to school to be a lawyer next year. Like if money wasn't an object in time. Yes. But yeah, I'm not too sure. Yeah. I think that like it's been a whirlwind of an experience. Yeah. A lot of good and a lot of bad. Yeah. So also too, just, you know, when you're thinking of running or when you're thinking of, you know, putting your name in the hat, a lot of that too, especially if you're a woman, you got to be asked a billion times. We talked about that, but you also need to have those conversations with your closest people and your family. Yeah. And there's a part of me that my kids are at a really important age. So we'll just have to see like how I'm feeling as we go forward.
I know. I always go on like gut feeling. I know. And I'm like a spur of the moment type person, which I know is very stressful for some people in my life. And I love them. And just know I'll always figure it out.
We need them, you know, up and down and up and down.
All the up and downs.
And, you know, I will just say that even if I run again or don't run again, I'm really committed to always like, I feel so confident in trying to implore people to step forward. Yeah. To get involved. And, you know, we have resources available from last election. Yeah. It was Oxford County, Center Wellington, Guelph, Grey Bruce. I mean, there's so many campaigning schools out there. And I really love that space of cheering people on. I'm a team player, right?
Team player.
So that's definitely on my radar in terms of like, I will be involved in the election. And just don't know to what capacity yet.
That's okay.
So Emily, I just want to understand too, for people that are maybe viewing this for the first time through my channels, your channels.
Yeah. All the things.
You know, we blow up, right? Viral.
We're going famous.
Yeah. But like, can you give me a definition? Like, so what are the years related to Gen Z? Like, you know, I'm a millennial.
Yeah.
Gen Z. Give us a little tutorial on how that works.
Yeah.
And you're an elder.
Yes, I'm an elder. I'm an elder Gen Z. So the start of Gen Z was essentially like 1997.
Okay.
So 1997 to 2012 is the Gen Z generation.
Oh my God.
So like
my oldest kid.
Yeah.
Ah, that's wild.
So essentially like I'm 27 and then 13, right? They would be 13 this year. Yeah, that's kind of the age group of what Gen Z looks like. And then like we're all at very different stages in our life, right? Like we're going from mid to late 20s, which I don't want to talk about. To
it's all right, embrace it. It's a good time. It only gets better. Life only gets better.
To 13. So like grade 8.
Yeah. And so if people say again, like different generations were coming across this podcast or wanted to learn more about you and like Gen Z specific, like what would your recommendation be? Do you have a book or a specific outlet?
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, a lot of like my social media channel, like Instagram, like I post a lot of like how-to guides on there, or like anything I post on there is coming from a very Gen Z perspective. So like embracing life over work, well-being is really important to us, and individuality, like being accepted exactly for who we are, and not even accepted, just like
love it.
Just being who we are, you know, and a judgment-free zone always. I am writing a book, which is exciting. My lofty goal was to have it done for March, but I'm giving myself a little bit of grace.
Good. Accepting yourself for who you are.
Yes, I am.
Yes.
So that'll be out in September. Is like kind of my lengthy, you know. By September it'll be out, and it's called We're Human Not Resources, and so it's really taking a Gen Z perspective into the HR world, but like it's not your typical HR book. Like it's like it's a human book. It's we're talking about how to be human.
Amazing.
And so social media that way. And I'm thinking of hosting like maybe like a few little like workshops to kind of like get rid of like the ridiculous stigma around Gen Z. Like, you know, this podcast is called Your Gen Z Coworker. I talk about it from a Gen Z perspective. I have all different generations on here, but I think when it comes to like approaching Gen Z and how to understand it, it's like having a conversation. It's the same in politics. It's knocking on doors and talking to people.
And I think we have to be receptive to those conversations. In the political world, everything is really like people's backs are against the wall. But I would love to see a place for myself and my children and other generations to come to go back to being able to have a conversation and having different views and different opinions. And how we approach one another. And then again, you know, being receptive to, it's always been done this way. Well, you know what? Maybe today that stops and we do things differently. Or we just save a little bit of room for change. You know?
I like that.
Yeah. I like that. Awesome.
One of my favorite parts of the podcast. I know. Are you stressing? Okay, so is my rapid fire question.
I love it. I'm excited.
Okay. 5 seconds to answer each question.
Okay.
No pressure.
Is it this or that or?
Yeah, it's like, this or that.
Okay.
Or like, sort of. You'll find out. Okay, ready?
3, 2, 1.
Dream job as a child.
A movie star.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
One food you could eat every day.
Eggs.
Dogs or cats?
Cats.
Most used emoji.
Oh, the melting emoji. Constantly. Like,
go-to karaoke song?
Oh, I don't like karaoke and I don't like trivia.
Okay.
I'm not fun that way. I know.
It's okay.
But it'd be a Shania Twain.
Okay.
If I was absolutely had to. Shania.
Okay. First celebrity crush.
Oh, Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh, yes.
Loved him.
One thing you can't live without.
My family.
Your family.
Yeah.
Favorite childhood memory.
I had a lot of good memories going to work with my dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
What did your dad do?
He was a chicken farmer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Big boss man. Yeah. And a lot of my ferociousness comes from both my dad and my mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. Favorite holiday or time of year?
Ooh, Thanksgiving. My birthday's around Thanksgiving, the fall colors, stuffing, cranberry sauce, Thanksgiving. I know. These are fun.
I know. Morning person or night owl?
Morning.
Sweet or savory?
Savory.
Biggest work pet peeve?
Biggest work pet peeve is poor communication.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Biggest fear?
Biggest fear. Ooh, I don't know. Biggest fear. Hold on. What's my biggest fear? I want to say failing, but I don't know what that looks like.
Okay, that's okay.
Biggest fear. Let me try that again. Okay. What's my biggest fear? I don't know, Emily.
That's okay.
Maybe I don't have any.
Maybe you're just like, you're fearless.
Biggest fear. I'm like, everything I've been afraid of friggin' happened, and I processed and learned and moved on. Yeah. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
Best career advice you've ever received?
Best career advice I've ever received. Fill your full seat.
I like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you believe in aliens?
No.
Okay.
I think I'm too scared to.
Okay. There's a fear.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so funny. Biggest fear, aliens. They don't exist. Oh my God. So funny.
What's one thing that's on your bucket list?
On my bucket list? Yeah. Oh man, keep traveling. Yeah. I'd love to go to Greece, and I'd love to go out east. Yes. Now that we're like kiboshing anything American, and might as well just continue to support local and Canadian. Yes. I've never been out east.
Me neither.
Yeah. All the seafood. I love seafood.
Okay, I'm actually not a seafood person. Oh, I don't know why I want to go to east. I love it. But it's so beautiful, like the landscape there.
Yeah. I hear it's a different way of life too. Yeah. Like much more laid back. Maybe better for Gen Z. Maybe. Like, millennials just dying in Ontario from being so fast paced, you know?
Yeah. One question to kind of wrap this up.
Sure.
If someone listening wants to step up as a leader in their community, whether in politics or just kind of in general, what's the best first step that they could take?
Best first step. Well, I mentioned volunteering, but I would say if they're interested in running or just getting involved in a campaign, my bias is going to come out, but we did create Municipal Campaign School. Yeah. It's on a website, not very active on socials because we're not in a campaigning period, but there are so many tutorials, there's so many tutorials that are still up there, like school board trustee, how to fund a campaign, how to get involved, how to door knock. Yeah. And because it was through COVID, we didn't have an in-person option. So it's all online. Yeah. So the videos live on. Yes. So I've actually sent that to probably 25 people over the last couple of years, just when they have a little bit of interest. I'm like, check out these videos. Just look at them. Yeah. Yeah. So amazing. Yeah. Okay. Where can people find you, connect with you? So people can find me online, mostly Instagram and Facebook. Perfect. Leatherbarrow Woodstock, and also my city email address, which is kleatherbarrow@cityofwoodstock. Yeah, you can see me around town. So if you ever have a question, come on up and ask. Yeah. But be gentle. But yes. No, that's perfect. Okay. And I'll make sure I'll link your social profiles on in the show notes. But thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for having me. This was a wonderful experience, and it really is the perfect space. I know. So it's gorgeous. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for listening and watching another episode of your Gen Z Coworker podcast. We are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Feel free to subscribe, leave a review, and you can also catch our episodes on RogersTV at Channel 13 Woodstock. Thank you. Woo! Woo!